One of the top enigmas when it comes to the history of the world, and particularly of the ancient world, is this. What happened to the lost tribes of Israel? I mean, did they disappear entirely from the peoples of the earth? Were they assimilated by the nations around them? Are they still more or less intact but known by other names? Can any of the current people groups of the world claim to be their descendants? And if so, where are these lost Israelites? Hi, this is Dr. Michael Bogart with Aspect Ministries. I have often wondered about these people, these lost people, especially since the Bible predicts that someday significant groups representing these Israelite tribes will reemerge onto the world scene. Revelation 7 and other passages insist that the tribes are not wiped out forever, because in the future 12,000 from each of Israel's 12 tribal groups will be set apart to serve God at the end of the current age. And add to this the promise in 1 Chronicles 16:15 through 18, which says, He, that is God, remembers His covenant forever, the promise He made for 1,000 generations, the covenant He made with Abraham, the oath He swore to Isaac. He confirmed it to Jacob as a decree, to Israel as an everlasting covenant. So how can there be an everlasting covenant if there's no Israel in the future to benefit from it? So as a refresher for those who are familiar with the record of ancient Israel, the Bible, as well as a necessary perspective for those who may not be familiar with it, let me give some background. In the following videos in the series, we're going to look at specific possibilities as to where these people have gone. But for now, let's have some review. Israel really began about 4,000 years ago when God called a man named Abraham to found a nation that would be the channel through which God would redeem the world. That calling continued through his son Isaac and then through his grandson Jacob. And Jacob's name was later changed to Israel when God finally got his undivided attention and willing cooperation. Jacob then had 12 sons: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Gad, Asher, Joseph, Benjamin, Dan, and Naphtali. These are the 12 original tribal groups. And from those humble beginnings as a large extended family, they grew into a great multitude during their centuries-long stay in Egypt, first as guest workers, then as slaves when the politics of Egypt changed into hostility toward them. Later, God sent Moses to free them, and the tribes of Israel departed, but not before Egypt suffered devastation because of their refusal to allow the Israelites to follow God's leading. Their departure from Egypt, called the Exodus, took them to Mount Sinai, where they received God's law and entered into a binding covenant with God. Now, the list of 12 tribes changed slightly after Israel's 40-year sojourn in the wilderness and their entry into the Promised Land. For settlement purposes, the tribe of Joseph was split into two groups, representing Joseph's two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. But hold on, wouldn't that make 13 tribes? 13 groups, yes, but the tribe of Levi, or Levi, was not given a territory. Why? Well, because they were set apart as Israel's clergy. And as Israel's teachers, religious workers, civil servants, and priests, they needed to be immediately accessible throughout all the tribes of Israel. So instead of their own territory, they were given lands within each tribal territory so that they could perform their assigned functions. Now, this situation in which the tribes were settled in their 12 tribal territories continued for several centuries until the end of the reign of King Solomon, who died around 930 BC. After King Solomon's death, Israel split into two mostly hostile nations, Israel and Judah. Judah was located in the south with its capital in Jerusalem. It included the tribes of Judah, Simeon, Benjamin, and their allotments of Levites. The northern group, whose capital was Samaria, kept the name Israel and contained the remaining tribes and their allotments of Levites. The kingdom of Judah, and especially the northern kingdom of Israel, failed to keep their covenant with God, to worship Him, to live for Him, and to represent the Creator to the rest of the world. They lived in darkness and they committed horrible acts and atrocities, if you can believe it, including the worship of evil deities like Baal, Asherah, and Moloch. And these deities required terrible and degrading things of them, such as child sacrifice and the exploitation of sex in worship. Listen to these selections from the biblical record. 2 Kings 16:3 tells us that Ahaz followed the ways of the kings of Israel and even sacrificed his son in the fire, engaging in the detestable practices of the nations that the Lord had driven out before the Israelites. Jeremiah 3:6 paints a lurid picture. During the reign of King Josiah, the Lord said to me, "Have you seen what faithless Israel has done? She has gone up on every high hill and under every spreading tree and has committed adultery there." 1 Kings 14:23-24 is even more explicit. They also set up for themselves high places, sacred stones, and Asherah poles on every high hill and under every spreading tree. There were even male shrine prostitutes in the land. The people engaged in all of the detestable practices of the nations that the Lord had driven out before the Israelites. Now, over a period of around 200 years, God sent prophets to warn these people to change their ways. Isaiah, Elijah, Jeremiah, and others. All of them warned, but to no avail. They actually killed some of these prophets. Then in the mid-700s BC, after many chances to change their ways, now the Bible would call that repentance, God allowed them to come into conflict with the empire of Assyria to the north and east. Now Assyria was known for its cruelty and vengeance, including the slaughter of entire cities and the skinning of prisoners alive. Assyria was also famous for the policy of forcing the relocation of conquered peoples in order to ensure that they would never rise against the empire again. So when Hoshea, the last king of Israel, refused to pay his annual tribute, the Assyrians showed no mercy. Israel's cities were destroyed, people were slaughtered, and the survivors were forced onto the road to distant parts of the Assyrian Empire. These Assyrian relief sculptures actually record their triumph and the humiliation of the Israelites. Israel's destruction by Assyria would be the first phase of the downfall of both kingdoms, Israel and Judah, and the scattering of their peoples. Now for the rest of the story, continue to the next video where I will pursue the question, where are the lost tribes of Israel? That'll be part 2. See you then.